Okay. Okay. Making sure everything sound all right. Y'all hear it? Is it a buzz in the back? No, I'm tripping. All right, y'all. Excuse me, the electronics been tripping today. All right. Okay. Share this post for me. Okay, there we go. So we are live. Okay, now let me pin it to my page. Okay, or pin it to the page. Okay, we are live. Okay, I'm sharing it. Sharing it on my page. If you're watching this, share it. Even if it ain't if you're watching it retroactively, share it. Share. Share. Okay. I'm trying to pin it to the top of the page. It won't let me go to the May 30th Alliance page. All right. It's cool. We are reading Until We Reckon, Violence, Mass Incarceration, and the Road to Repair. I'm going to start at the top of the page. I'm not sure where the last person left off. Again, this is part of the ongoing teaching to Say Their Name Square. We are on day 7, book 7, the last book in our Police Terrorism Mass Incarceration Week. Again, this book is about dealing with violence, mass incarceration, and a road to repair. This speaks specifically about dealing with violent offenders and a road to justice without the penal system we know of today. Recognition affirms our membership in something bigger than ourselves and our importance to that larger group. It affirms that when we are different, so too is the world, and in that way, recognition combats our isolation and the legitimate terror that accompanies it. When that recognition comes from the responsible person, and especially when it is witnessed by community, it can fulfill the need that underlies the desire for revenge. It cannot always, but often, release survivors from it. And surviving as a reflection of and contributor to connection in this way, responsible parties' acknowledgement of their actions' impact can form the basis for the mending a community must do in the aftermath of failing to protect one of its members. Just as the responsible party's acknowledgement reflects the interconnectedness of people, the community affirms its potential role in healing that pain and in transforming the conditions that made the pain possible in the first place. Step 3. Expressing genuine remorse. Acknowledging the impact of one's actions does not in itself include recognizing the wrongfulness of those actions. That is where remorse comes in. Remorse is the sense of self-reproach, guilt, or distress arising from the wrongs one has committed. It is an acknowledgement that one was wrong, and at its best, that one is indebted as a result. Professor Pumla Gabado Madizakila, who served on South Africa's Truth and Reconciliation Commission, has described remorse this way. Excuse me. Empathy is why a perpetrator can rise beyond guilt and shame to touch that place of remorse, which is a very vulnerable place. There, a perpetrator has to recognize their own brokenness, because for them to have violated and dehumanized the victim, they had to dehumanize the self first. They rendered themselves inhuman in order to conduct their terrible deeds. So remorse is a recognition of deep human brokenness, and it is also the possibility, the place where it becomes possible for the perpetrator to reclaim their rights to belonging in the realm of moral humanity. In its overall place in the larger process of accountability, the expression of remorse is a critical part of the inversion of power that accountability requires. It is, to put it simply, a way for a responsible party to use his or her power for good. And because it is an exercise of power, it is rooted in agency, which in turn is rooted in a responsible party's persistent and always repairable humanity. It is an act of human grace and of goodness. Or as Gabado Madizakatila puts it beautifully, how does the other present their humanity? Through remorse. Remorse is a truly human phenomenon. Remorse cannot be evil. Remorse belongs to the world of accountability in ways it does not belong to the world of punishment. No matter how much our voracious appetite for punishment compels us to try to fit it in there. Central to the problem with punishment is that it is inherently something that is done to us by someone else. One way we can approach being punished is to no longer engage in the behavior that resulted in our punishment. But we can just as easily continue that behavior and merely work to ensure that we are not caught. Forms of punishment that do not include the human reckoning of accountability and the human grappling of remorse rely exclusively on extrinsic motivation, a threat from outside. One of the effects of accountability is to help foster people's intrinsic motivation, which manifests in part as remorse. My fault, y'all. One of the effects of accountability is to help foster people's intrinsic motivation, which manifests in part as remorse. Intrinsic motivation is always a more reliable driver of positive behavior than anything extrinsic, because although we can sometimes escape the police, we can never escape ourselves. I think that that was a wow. This is my man. This is crazy. Man, this ain't even been open. Ugh. It's not. It's like coconut milk. I already drink coconut milk. That's disgusting. But for me, one of the things that stands out just off from the first that I'm reading of this right now is the complexity of the concepts that's being presented. A lot of the things that we have been reading up until this point have not really taken much time to look into the dynamics between a person who commits what is considered a crime and the victim of that crime. And so in this first page here, to sit and listen to sit and read how she describes remorse in this is very powerful to me, hearing her describe remorse in this way. My fault, I don't mean to be like sidetracked. I'm just trying to plug something in. It's supposed to start raining here in a little bit. I don't know exactly how we gonna deal with that, but we gonna figure it out. Again, we're reading Until We Reckon. I'm gonna pick back up. The nickname of one of Common Justice's first participants before he came to us was the Enforcer, and not for enforcing high ethical standards. When he graduated, I was not sure whether he would continue to behave as he had with us or revert to his patterns before he started the program. So I asked him. We were walking back from court where the felony charges against him had just been dismissed, and I asked, now that the threat of prison is no longer hanging over your head, are you just going to go back and do the same stuff you used to do? He said, nah. He was never much of a talker. I asked him to be more specific. He looked me straight in the eyes and said, no, it's just that, you know, and he pointed to his heart. The judge isn't here now. This young man had done what social workers talk about as shifting from extrinsic to intrinsic motivation, from being driven by a fear of punishment to being driven by his own internal moral compass. Intrinsic motivation has been demonstrated to be a more reliable and durable predictor of positive behavior. Intrinsic motivation has been demonstrated to be a more reliable and durable Intrinsic motivation has been demonstrated to be a more reliable and durable predictor of positive behavior than its extrinsic motivation, in part because of its inherent legitimacy to the person who experiences it, a legitimacy that can be undermined by external sources of control. As the restorative justice practitioner and teacher Kay Prentice puts it, the use of authority undermines the development of responsibility and self-regulation. Intrinsically motivated, the responsible party in this case was not motivated just by a desire to stay out of jail, but by wanting to feel at peace with himself, to go to sleep at night with a clear conscience, to be proud, to live in line with his values. He was remorseful. In that remorse, he was answering to himself. And when a person becomes someone who answers to himself, it means that he is never beyond the reach of the force that keeps him living an upright, ethical, and meaningful life. For people who are harmed, the responsible party's expression of remorse can open more options to them about how they wish to relate to the person who hurt them. If they have been consumed by thinking of the person who hurt them, they can begin to do so less often and move forward with their lives. If they have been avoiding thinking of the person who hurt them, they can face him or her more directly and turn their attention to that person as the subsequent process of repair ensues. They can sit in their rage toward the person in a way that is reflected back to them by that same person as legitimate. And sometimes, depending on what we mean by the term, they can forgive that person. Okay, so I feel the need to speak a little bit about some of my thoughts. So the dynamic that they are speaking of is the dynamic between someone who victimizes a person and someone who becomes victimized. Oh man. And someone who becomes victimized, and the differences in the way in those things are dealt with. Oh man, hold on. My fault. I'm trying to keep this charged up. My fault, y'all. 1 second. I don't know if this even gonna work. It ain't working. Hold on. Okay. It says charging. All right, we're gonna let this. I had to plug this up, try to get the charge. This is a little chilly. Okay. Got this poncho on. It's supposed to rain here in a little bit. So what they're speaking about, oh no. What they're speaking about in here is look at dude out here trying to give people parking tickets. I gotta put on I put my hoodie on. My fault. Alright, y'all. Ooh, it's getting a little chilly out here. It's supposed to rain here in a little bit. Oh, this button. Oh, it buttons. I just got this, y'all. I don't know how to put it back on. Oh. How'd this go? I'm more confused now that I unbuttoned it. This is where my head go. Hey man, they made the neck. Oh no! They made the neck so tight that was inevitable to happen. Whose head can fit into this space? Look how tight. Alright, I ain't gonna trip. Okay. Oh. Okay, hi. But how do I make it a poncho again? Well, I got a button. This is crazy. Why are they making it like this? Is nuts. All right, I'm gonna have to end this. Hold on. Oh man, I'm so sorry. I'm trying to get this poncho on this. I'm like I'm doing a Rubik's Cube.
Right. Yeah, it's getting ready to rain.
Yeah, I know. Thank you. He scared the hell out of me. Why is this so confusing? Look at it, look. This can't be right. This can't be right. Okay. Figured it out. Okay. Alright, let's do it. Alright, so I'm just gonna keep on. Oh, I'll make sure it's still charging. Okay, it's still charging. 1 second. Let's pick up where we left off. Many people regard the expression of remorse, which sometimes manifests as an apology, as the gesture that opens a pathway to forgiveness. For some, remorse is not sufficient, and for others, it is not necessary for forgiveness. For some, forgiveness is deeply interpersonal and resides between the harmed and responsible party. For some, it is a deeply spiritual process that lives primarily between the one forgiving and God. For some, it is highly pragmatic. Some of these people have described it as giving up all hope for a better past. For some, it is a combination of these or something else entirely. In my years doing this work, I have come to think of forgiveness rather simply as relinquishing our desire to see the person who harmed us suffer. Oh, that's deep. I have been trying to figure out, okay, what I'm going to highlight. Because this is the first time reading this. My first time reading Rise of the Warrior Cop. I was trying not to highlight because I was running out of time when I was reading that one. I got some time today, though. That was deep. In my years doing this work, I have come to think of forgiveness rather simply as relinquishing our desire to see the person who harmed us suffer. I know that forgiveness does not require minimizing or even accepting the harm done. It does not require embracing the other person, though others would disagree. In my view, it does not even require no longer being angry. At its most basic, perhaps it just requires separating one's well-being from the other person's suffering. Oh, yeah, she in a bag. Who is this? Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, she in a bag early. That separation can be based on a profound sense of proximity, whether a literal connection and closeness to the person who caused harm or a broader sense of one's unalterable interdependence. But based on the healing process I have had the honor to witness, I believe that the separation of well-being from another's suffering can also be based on a sense of distance, a feeling or belief that one will heal on one's own in one's own community without regard for what the responsible person says or does. It is beautiful when forgiveness arises out of intimacy and proximity, but that is not the only time it is beautiful. I want to read that last part again. Ah, damn, it ain't charging. Oh, shit. Alright, we have a charger. We have electronic problems. Trying to get stuff charged. Nothing want to charge. I have to go get the speaker. That means I gotta bring something else outside. Trying to not bring something else outside. Okay. Hold on. Oh, it's gonna start raining. Hold on. Okay, had to go get something to charge the phone up. Sorry, y'all. My fault. My fault. Somebody was watching. I gave you time to go use the bathroom. Bathroom break. Okay. Oh, and I went and got some water too, y'all. Man, my mouth was too dry. It's parched. Oh, damn. Okay. All right. It's been a very... Oh, it's been a day. Okay. Getting ready for the rain. Out here with this Where is Waldo jacket. Or, no, Curious George. Curious George. The dude in the Curious George used to have one of these. I wonder how come they ain't made a Curious George CGI movie yet. How they gonna make a Clifford movie before a Curious George? All right, anyways. Yeah, some of y'all probably don't know that. They're making a Clifford movie. All right, that's not what we're here for. Okay, I'm sorry. If we act on the working definition of forgiveness as relinquishing a desire to see the other suffer, then forgiveness is deeply practical. However convenient it might be if it were otherwise, the truth is that someone else's suffering does not relieve us from our own. If it did, our given unprecedented use of punishment, the United States would be not only the safest nation in human history, but also the most healed. Hold on. I just felt the first drops of rain, so I gotta... Okay, you're gonna have to get this figured out. It's happening. It's happening. Okay, hold on 1 second. Okay, so we operating in the rain. So I'm trying to get some stuff together because it's finna rain go away up in this mug. Hand sanitizer. Alright. Speaker over there. And I'm trying to use this to charge this. This right here. Okay. Oh, I could probably put this in that lady car. Oh, but it'll actually charge our plug. There. That drinks need to get right. That drinks will be alright. Excuse me. Okay, the rain is coming. The rain is coming. We getting ready. If we act on the working definition of forgiveness as relinquishing a desire to see the other suffer, then forgiveness is deeply practical. However convenient it might be if it were otherwise, the truth is that someone else's suffering does not relieve us from our own. If it did, given our unprecedented use of punishment, the United States would not only be the safest nation in human history, but also the most healed. If causing pain relieved our own, then those of us who have hurt people would be steadied and eased by having caused so much suffering. But we are not. Violence begets violence begets violence. When we rely on the infliction of suffering as the solution to our hurt, whether by doing it or longing for it, we remain trapped in that pain because the remedy we are counting on just will not work. When we break from that reliance, we can begin to pursue other pathways to the recovery and healing we deserve. Regardless of the relationship remorse does or does not have to forgiveness in any given instance of harm, it is the turning point in the accountability process between the past and the future. The first two steps, acknowledging the actions and acknowledging the impact, are backward looking, and the last two, repairing the harm and never hurting anyone similarly again, are forward looking. Remorse sits between these steps on either side. It is present and looks straight ahead into the eyes of those who are harmed and recognizes the wrongfulness of the actions and the legitimate pain the responsible person feels about the resultant harm. Okay, and so Actually, I gotta need to highlight it because I gotta highlight some of this. So I don't know if you can hear me or not, but so without the this is the first book that we're reading where somebody is diving deeper into the idea of dealing with these the system of mass incarceration in a different way, and also giving reasons why some of the ways we deal with these things are contradictory. Again, and we want to highlight the contradictions. We want to highlight the hypocrisies. This is just so far, this is just a different angle to come at this issue from, and I think that's why this is a very important read. I'm gonna read that again. Remorse sits between. Regardless of the relationship remorse does or does not have to forgiveness in any given instance of harm, it is the turning point in the accountability process between the past and the future. So they're saying that, and I think that, this is a concept, again, that is new to me. I don't want people to think that that we're reading all of these things from a standpoint of we know these things and we have all the answers and we're laying these things out for you to get the answers from us. What we are doing is we are learning as we are reading along with the people, with you all at home or the people that have came in person, and we're learning new concepts and ideas as well. And so I think that it's important that we think about all the things that we have been reading up to this point and try to figure out where what we're reading right now fits into that bigger picture of those books. At its best, At its best, remorse also includes acknowledgement of and sorrow about the impact of a responsible person's actions had on his or her community or society. When remorse is brought in to include the larger network of those impacted, the opportunities for repair broaden as well. If the harm is solely interpersonal, all repair will have to happen. If the harm is solely interpersonal, all repair will have to happen solely between the people directly involved. But if the harm is broader, then the site of repair may be elsewhere. It may involve the responsible party paying it forward, fostering the well-being of others who were or could have been harmed by the kind of choices the person made. And when the site of the repair is in the community, then community can join in that repair and be mended too. Step 4. Doing sorry, taking actions to repair harm to the degree possible and guided when feasible by the people harmed. The 4th step of accountability moves us into the future. It is the stage when people who have caused harm engage in the acts of repair to which the combination of their humanity and their actions obligates them. Punishment does not require such acts. Despite what we may assume, the fact that we insulate the people we incarcerate from these obligations is not merciful in any way, because it does not protect them from our power, but rather separates them from theirs. Our failure to demand that people act on their accountability intensifies the overall dehumanization built into our approach to punishment. We tell our national story about violence and punishment almost as though we were talking about werewolves. The moon comes out and their claws come out and they ravage people. When we talk about people who commit violence as monsters, or super predators if you prefer, we often viciously deny them the benefits we afford to people we consider fully human, but we also do not hold them to the obligations which we hold people whose humanity we do not question. We never ask werewolves why they did what they did, never expect them to account for their choices or make things right, and the only tactics we have to manage werewolves' behavior are to kill them or put them in a cage. Those are frighteningly similar to the 2 main options available in our criminal justice system for responding to serious violence. What's good, bro? How you feeling? Mm-hmm. Dang, where'd she go? Oh, shit, this all. I was going to tell her where her brother was at. She came looking for her brother. She said something about her brother.
You like my microphone?
What'd you say?
So you like my microphone?
Oh, your microphone? Oh, that play kid? Ah, you funny as hell. Yo, that's crazy, dog. But it turns out that people who commit violence are not monsters. They are, in fact, fully human. Every one of them. They are not overtaken by the moon. They make choices, even if they are constrained ones. Committing violence is a choice we make that is rooted in our values, beliefs, expectations, and experiences, and constrained by our context. So, again, one of the things I just want to talk people through. We ain't in the last time I read, I was in a little bit more of a rush. I don't think we in. I want to say a rush, but we is in more of a time crunch. I think we got a little bit more time available to us now. So I'm gonna just talk through some of my mindsets when reading.
What book is that?
This is called "Until We Reckon." "Until We Reckon" by Danielle Sered. It's about violence, mass incarceration, and the road to repair. It's about dealing with violent offenders, people who commit violent crimes outside of imprisonment, outside of the penal system we know now. And the concept that she just brought up right now, the committing violence is a choice we make that is rooted in our values, beliefs, expectations, and experiences, and constrained by our context. And that just goes into the idea that there is you can be in any given city, and there can be one side of the city in where a disagreement over money may end in a disagreement over money may end in a lawsuit, and then on the opposite side of the city, the same type of disagreement over the same amount of money may end in a murder, and that is not because one set of people in those circumstances are more intelligent or inherently more violent than the other. It's because one set of people in those circumstances, one set of people in this, one set of people with this problem faced to them have different circumstances around them. So the people where a murder might take place over this money discrepancy or this financial dispute, they have less options available to them. They can't afford a lawyer. They might be in a position where they've grown up knowing about violence. They've grown up being told that's how you fix issues and deal with issues with violence. And so the people on the other side of the tracks in the other community dealing with it they have opportunities and money for lawyers, and they've been told the way that you deal with things is through lawyers and not through violence. And they're more concerned and worried about what would happen if they are caught committing violence. That's one of the other things that we don't speak about, and that's important when we think about the school to prison pipeline, is that the mentality for people who are in certain circumstances, jail is normalized, and being arrested is normalized, and being in prison is normalized. And so when circumstances present themselves that people who have more opportunities available to them may stay away from committing a crime, committing an act that will land them in jail, or committing an act that may land them in prison. People who have less opportunities, who feel like they have less to lose, who have been normalized to being arrested and being in prison, they will go ahead and make that choice. They will make the decision that leads towards the most violent repercussions, and that leads towards somebody going to jail. And so that's what we have to understand when we go through and read all of these different books about, and they talk about the lack of the socioeconomic equity. That is the way that lack of a socioeconomic equity manifests itself, is in these violent acts, and in these acts that are being deemed criminal by society. When people are given the opportunity to consider and transform those values, beliefs, expectations, and experiences, even within the persistent constraints of harmful or oppressive contexts, they can make different choices. The upside of being fully human is that we can transform. The downside, or what initially may feel like one, is that we are accountable for what we do. You said, you funny as hell, boy.
I got like two different ones.
I was probably you, yeah. Accountability is not just a feeling. It is a way of behaving. In 2006, when I was planning common justice and serving as the deputy director of a program for young men coming home from a jail on Rikers Island, one of the participants asked me what accountability meant. Typically, I would have loved this question, but I was busy that day and, admittedly, impatient. I barely looked up from my computer screen and said to him, "Accountability is doing sorry." While I am not proud of my impatience that day, I think the definition I offered was right. Accountability is not just about being or feeling sorry. It is about a set of actions that demonstrate remorse in practice. And it is not the feeling of remorse that delivers us from our shame. It is the practice of accountability in action. It is doing sorry. That is in part because the inversion of the misuse of power requires not just the absence of negatively used power, but the presence of that person's power positively used. Let me repeat that sentence one more time. That is in part because the inversion of the misuse of power requires not just the absence. Let this big ass truck go by. It is doing sorry. That is in part because the inversion of the misuse of power requires not just the absence of negatively used power, but the presence of that person's power positively used. So I want to, again, this is why when I'm reading, I like to go through and highlight certain things. And, you know, with some of these books, you could damn near highlight every page all the time. But what we want to do is, for me personally, is highlight the things that that help to go towards building a dialogue to people and getting people to understand things. And so this is something too that when we speak about issues that the black community and that indigenous communities and that Latino and Latina communities raised with the white American power structure and with the white supremacist American society, is that there has been no true reckoning with the things done to these minority communities based off of racism and capitalism. And so some of these things that are being used to speak about isolated incidences of violence being perpetuated can also be broadened out to speak about a wide variety of the a wide variety of issues. And so doing sorry, America has never done sorry. You know, that's one of the things that stand out to me when I hear this, when people, you know, this is sort of but anyway, let's keep going. In processes of repair, including restorative, again, I want to let people know we are reading Until We Reckon by Danielle said that. I don't know why I said the R like that. I think that's how you say it. I don't really know. But so, yeah, you already know it. Page 113, in praise of accountability. In process of repair, including restorative justice ones, that exercise of power is shaped by the acts of witnessing and acknowledgement, but also by the action-oriented agreements reached about how the responsible party can make things as right as possible. These agreements are not commitments to feel or be something. They are commitments to do something. The actions may include acknowledgement or restitution to the harmed party, service to the community, or the rigorous development of the responsible party to help ensure that he or she will not commit further harm. It is the completion of these agreements, not merely the formulation of them, that constitutes accountability. After all, we are not dignified by making a promise. We are dignified by keeping it. Responsible parties know this. Many do not consider forgiving themselves for what they have done until they have fulfilled the promises they made to those they harmed. Time after time, when we ask responsible parties after a restorative justice circle with those they have harmed whether they feel some measure of relief, let me read that one more time. Time after time, when we ask responsible parties after a restorative justice circle with those they have harmed whether they feel some measure or relief, they tell us that they will feel relieved when and only when they have kept the promises they made in that room. For many responsible parties, the scope of commitments they make in these processes can be overwhelming, but nonetheless, they also bring about some measure of calm. That is because the agreements can concretize repair in a way that makes clear to responsible parties that such repair is, despite what they fear, possible. Okay. That is because agreements concretize repair in a way that makes clear to responsible parties that such repair is, despite what they feared, possible. Through these processes, they turn the corner, see down the long road to doing sorry, and know they can walk it. All too often, when people become persuaded of the value of accountability, they seek to cultivate it in people who have caused harm only by integrating a greater focus on remorse and prisons. This is not what a real understanding of accountability calls for. It is entirely possible to support incarcerated people in developing a deeper sense of responsibility. It is entirely possible to support incarcerated people in developing a deeper sense of responsibility of remorse, and a number of transformative and principled programs do so. But prison is not built for accountability, not only because of the nature of prison, but because of the nature of accountability. First, accountability as doing sorry requires the right exercise of power, and prison is designed to restrict people's power, the very power they would be morally obligated to use in the service of repair in a culture based on accountability. But the disconnect between prison and accountability is even more than that. Accountability is multidimensional. A person is not just accountable for something, but also to someone. That is different from punishment, which is one-dimensional. A person is punished for something, period. Nothing about the person to whom something is owed. In that sense, accountability is about relationship, and prison, based as it is on separation, is anti-ethical to relationship. Okay. Again, we are reading Until We Reckon by Danielle, and she's just going into some of the, she's going deeper into some of the ideology and thought patterns and thought processes of abolishing prison and getting rid of prisons and getting rid of the penal system as we know it. And she's saying, she's going into some of the, it seems, in my opinion, some of the psychological thoughts and reasonings for these things. Batteries is dying. This is crazy. All the batteries dying. Okay. All right, let's keep going. Still got our Denzel sign up, something back there. All right, let's keep going. First, accountability as doing sire. No. For many harmed parties, the opportunity to shape what repair looks like can be the most transformative part of the accountability process. Trauma is fundamentally about powerlessness, so having the power to direct the future that arises out of the past can contribute significantly to a person's healing process. Identifying acts of repair can also be the strangest part of the process for harmed parties. In our culture, most violence results in either retaliation, whether on the part of the individuals or the state, or nothing. We are not used to getting to define what repair looks like. When one survivor, Anna, was asked what she wanted to see happen as a result of the harm she experienced, she answered, "That's the strangest question I've ever been asked." Countless others have reacted in the same way. The strangeness of such a seemingly basic and appropriate question reflects a long-standing failure in our country to meet the moral demands of understanding and answering to the needs of people who are harmed. Our failure is particularly damning because of how powerful it can be when we get right the process of seeking and acting on a harmed party's needs. During Hanukkah, Anna was on the subway with a group of friends, wishing fellow passengers a joyful holiday and handing out candy. Suddenly, a group of young people began insulting them, claiming that the Jews had killed Jesus and spitting in the face of one of Anna's friends. The verbal attack turned physical, and Anna and her friends were badly beaten. The young man who initiated the attack had another open hate crime case for assaulting two black men and was sentenced to prison. The friends who had played a more minor role in the attack were given probation and community service. Trish, the woman who attacked Anna, was somewhere in between. She didn't have a prior history committing crimes, but she had hurt Anna seriously, punching her, kicking her, and pulling out her hair. Anna suffered serious trauma symptoms following the attack, and she never rode the trains anymore. The change rippled through every part of her life. This case came to the attention of Common Justice as a candidate for the restorative justice alternative to incarceration process we offer, and staff reached out to Anna to discuss what support she wanted and whether she was in favor of giving Trish the option to participate in the program. After careful consideration, Anna chose to do so, in part because of the role she would have in shaping the response to what she had survived. Anna wanted Trish to answer for and understand the impact of what she had done, so that she would never hurt anyone else again. Damn, this shit crazy. Damn, that's a lot. Damn, this is a lot. That's some heavy shit too. Okay. After extensive preparation, Common Justice convened a dialogue with Anna, Trish, and their support people to address the harm done to Anna and identify actions Trish could make to make things right as possible. The group made quick, solid progress. Oh, damn, my fault. The group made quick, solid progress in shaping a wide range of commitments Trish would make, including work, education, apologies, reading assignments, and community service. Then we reached an impasse. Anna's hair had fallen out after the incident, both because Trish tore much of it out and because hair loss is a common Anna's hair had fallen out after the incident, both because Trish tore much of it out and because hair loss is a common response to extreme stress and trauma, so much so that Anna finally had to shave it off. Oh. This is crazy. I reacted like that not because I think what I'm about to say is wrong or that this is not happening. I just to read this is to read some of these things. You know, it's a crazy world. It's a wild world out there. The things you don't know, man. They fill books with things you don't know. This is something that happened. Okay, so I want to read back through this again. Again, this is for people who may not be keeping up or. So, I know sometimes when you're listening, sometimes it can throw off the reading process. Whereas, when you're reading, you can go back and read something 2 or 3 times and make sure you're keeping up. So we are reading Until We Reckon, which is about dealing with violent offenders, people who have committed violent crimes outside of the penal system and outside of imprisoning them and outside of mass incarceration as we know it. The new Jim Crow is speaking about non-violent offenders mostly, speaking about the war on drugs mostly. This is speaking about violent crimes. And so we have what... the story that we're reading through now is a young woman and her group of her friends were assaulted in a hate crime by a group of people. And in the assault, and during the assault, it was 3 sets of people. It was one set of people who had done violent crimes like this before, other hate crimes. They've been sent to prison. Another group of people who had some priors. But not as bad as the other group, so they just sort of got probation, parole. And then it's this other girl, Trish, who was sort of in the middle of those things, and so she was put up to be to take place in this restorative justice program. And so one of the things they do in the restorative justice program is try to figure out ways that they can have. Basically, alternative ways outside of prison to have some type of restorative justice. So they, assign books for people to read, assign community work for people to do, and so they're just speaking about this specific incident. Anna's hair had fallen out after the incident, both because Trish tore much of it out and because hair loss is a common response to extreme stress and trauma, so much so that Anna finally had to shave it off. Now, Anna wanted Trish to shave her head. Chapter 4 explores restorative justice processes such as this one in much greater detail. For now, it is important to note that such processes don't allow agreements that are harmful or degrading to the responsible party. In this case, there was disagreement about whether this proposed commitment crossed the line. We took a break to see if we could find common ground. We talked to Anna about what this agreement meant to her. At first, he said, "I want her to suffer the way I suffered." And while we empathize deeply with that, we cannot be in the business of replicating the suffering caused by violent crime. Anna added, "But it isn't just that. She paused. She took a breath. And she said, "Everywhere I go, I think about this girl. When I wake up, I think about her. When I look at myself in the mirror, I think about her. And when I go to touch my head and my long hair is not there, I think about her. And when people tell me my short haircut is cute, I think about her. And when I get on the bus instead of the train, I think about her. And when I wait for the bus and I'm too cold, I think about her. And when I go to... Damn, this is crazy. And when I wait for the bus and I'm cold, I think about her. And when I go to sleep and can't fall asleep, I think about her. And I dream about her and I wake up and start it all over again. She's everywhere for me. I want to be everywhere for her. I want to be on top of her head. That, we said, we can try to do. We talked for hours, and the agreement that emerged from our conversation was that Trish was not allowed to ride the trains for the next year. Okay. Trish lived on the outskirts of Brooklyn, far from her school, the program she was required to attend, and the job she had to maintain. The agreement we reached required her to stay off the trains and keep a daily journal in which she reflected about how Anna must have felt each day following the attack. At first, her entries were short and even a little trite. I think she felt angry, and I think she felt mad. But after having to write these reflections day after day, finally something clicked. I bet she felt so tired of waking up angry. Alright, man. Damn, this shit crazy. Alright. I have to take a break from reading this shit. I bet she felt so tired of waking up angry. I bet she was so frustrated that everything changed because of me. Because of something she didn't even do. Something she didn't even choose. Something that wasn't meant for her. I bet she felt so sad because she didn't know if that feeling would ever go away. I bet she hated me for causing her that pain. I bet she hated hating me too. Trish stayed off the trains. She had to spend 2 or 3 times as long getting to places. When her friends all hopped on the subway, she had to decide between making up a fake excuse or telling them the real reason she couldn't ride with them. She had to consider getting on the train, then imagine the possible consequences of doing so. The risk that she would be terminated from the program and sentenced to a prison term. Then would feel an overwhelming sense of panic and wait for the bus to come. And of course, these are all things Anna had been doing for a year as a result of the trauma Trish caused her. Damn, this is crazy. Damn, this is crazy. Alright, so I've heard people talk about restorative justice and, what that means. But this is the first time I'm reading about this in this type of extent. Wow. Damn, you did. That's... Okay. Before engaging in this process with Trish... let me see. My fault, y'all. Before engaging in this process with Trish, Anna experienced symptoms that rose to the level of PTSD, including flashbacks... Oh, making sure this is charging. Okay. Before engaging in this process with Trish, Anna, man, it was supposed to. I took all this stuff down. Things about to rain. Watch when I take it out. It's gonna start raining. My fault, y'all. Oh, damn. Okay. Alright, page 117. Before engaging in this process with Trish, Anna experienced symptoms that rose to the level of PTSD, including flashbacks, anxiety, depression, and hypervigilance. She could not feel relaxed or safe anywhere. Within weeks of dialogue, things changed dramatically for Anna. Her symptoms subsided and she regained her ability to move through her life and to feel joy. Years later, Anna told us that the benefit of this process had persisted for her, and Trish kept her word, paying for the generosity Anna showed her in living a healthy, productive, law-abiding life. No court would have envisioned or could have required the kind of repair Anna imagined for herself, and the agreement she and Trish reached was certainly far from typical. The point of these acts is not that they are logical, though they often are. It is that they are meaningful and useful to both parties. Harmed parties who get to shape the course of repair choose actions they believe will keep themselves and others safe from harm. Their sense of power in that process is critical, as is the sense of resolution that many experience when those promises are upheld. Just as many responsible parties cannot envision forgiving themselves until they have kept the promises they made to those harmed, many harmed parties cannot envision forgiving those who harmed them, feeling closure, or feeling safe until the agreements are fulfilled. As one harmed party put it, "I can't forgive you based on what you say, but I can forgive you based on what you do. That's because people won't be safe based on what you say. They'll be safe based on what you do." Many harmed parties question the truth of a responsible party's apology or expression of remorse, or question whether that remorse will affect what the person does going forward. They are moved instead by the times when responsible parties fulfill their commitments to obtain and retain employment, when they study for and obtain a GED, when they complete hundreds of hours of community service at a site meaningful to the person harmed, when they pay restitution from the income they have earned at work, or when they speak publicly to younger people to help steer them down a better path. The clarity and objectivity achieved when the responsible party completes agreements gives harmed parties a degree of the confidence in the change they are owed with no verbal commitment alone could ever provide. When responsible parties do sorry, the benefits accrue not only to the harmed party and to themselves, but to the community as a whole. The acts of repair, at their best, give back to that community and strengthen it from within. Accountability as a set of actions can also satisfy a larger society's need for recognition that its tenets were violated. It can go a great distance toward restoring what was lost or damaged because of that violation. The visibility of such repair offers a critical counterbalance to the visibility of harm and its impacts. People in the community need not hope or believe in a difference. They can see it carried out before their eyes. So, excuse me, y'all. Oh man, I got some dots. My dots is over there. I gotta go get my dots, my sour dots. And low key, I need to go get a drink too. So I'm gonna end this one. Actually, let me see how many pages we got left in this chapter before I end it. Only got 10 pages left in this chapter, but I'm still gonna end it. I'm gonna end it. Grab my dots that's sitting behind me. Also grab a drink, and then I will return. Until we reckon, go out and get this. Go out and purchase this. Kindle, wherever books are sold, go out and get this. This is about restorative justice. We want it. When people talk about how do we pose answers, and do we have answers for what we want the world to look like and what we want our society to look like without prisons, this is the beginning to getting to those answers. Until we reckon. All right, I'm finna end this one, and then we will start another one. All right?